All right, take two. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We are attempting to do a live stream tonight. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties. So if you were in the live before, hopefully you guys all jump back over here. I am texting our guest. Hey, Jasper Jelly. Hey, Danny. Okay, Danny is in here. And we are going to try to get Danny in here. So the live earlier was that we could hear Danny, but we couldn't see him for some reason. Don't know why. If that happens again, my vote is going to be let's talk without being able to see, which I know is weird, but I really want to talk to you.
Yeah, I want to talk too.
All right, guys. So this is Danny. We are going to go ahead and talk, even though this is strange. I don't know why it's not allowing us to see his video. It tells me on my end that it's still trying to connect to you, but
yeah, and I have a brand new phone too, so that's what I'm confused about.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know. Oh, well, hopefully we can at least maintain this much of a connection so we can talk to each other. And
Yep.
So anyway, just to reiterate what I had started to say previously when we previously started the live, Danny is a mental health professional. He has been teaching color guard since 2012. And how long have you been a counselor for again? Did I lose Danny? Oh no. We're trying again. Okay, here we go. So he's been a mental health professional for several years now. I want to say it's right about the same time.
Hello.
Hello, I hear you again.
Okay. I tried to grab my phone charger to see if that would fix it. But that means that I have to not have headphones in.
Ah, okay.
But that's okay, because apparently there's no background noise for once.
That is incredible. That doesn't even happen here, and I live in the middle of freaking nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
So guys, this is why whenever you're doing a presentation for class or for school or something, you always want to test out your technology ahead of time. We're going to turn this into a nice little teaching moment here. You always want to test out your technology, even if it's brand new, even if you know how it works, and you've done this a million times. I want to say this is like our 10th week of having lives at Spintronics or something crazy like that, and we still have some issues we don't actually know how to resolve. So we're going to be talking tonight about mental health in color guard. And so if you guys have any questions that you have about mental health issues in color guard, go ahead and ask those in the question box. And I'll kind of sort through them and I'll answer them as we are having our discussion. We do have a little bit of an outline because there are some things that we specifically wanted to make sure we discuss with you guys.
Yep. I don't know why it keeps kicking me out though, so sorry.
Oh no. It's probably one of those things where it's like, oh, we tried to connect for so long and then we couldn't connect.
Okay. Huh.
We'll just try to make it work. All right, so starting here, and get my little notes pulled up here. So basically, oh my gosh, it's you.
Okay.
What?
Okay.
Who is this crazy person in the live? Guys, round of applause in the chat box, in the comment section. Everybody give me some clapping emojis, because we have Danny in the house. And did I say your name right earlier? I said Jang or Shang?
It's actually a silent T, so it's just Sang.
Sang. Okay, cool. Look, I was trying to make it so much more complicated than it was.
You and everyone in the English-speaking world.
This is true. I feel for you. I'm Polish. My maiden name is Krasuski. Oh, so that one gets butchered all the time, too. All right, so, guys, welcome Danny Tsang into the live stream, finally. And Danny Tsang is a mental health professional. So let's talk mental health. So how do we do this? Why is this important, I guess, first of all? Like, why do we care about bringing mental health discussions into the color guard community specifically?
Because I feel like
Oh no. Oh, okay.
oh wait, am I not here? I still see me moving and hearing.
You're like your sound was breaking up.
Okay. Am I good now?
It's okay.
Or
It's not
now?
synced up with your video, but you're good.
Oh, okay. So why bring the talk about mental health awareness into Guard? Just because it's basically general respect at this point. The whole world's talking about it. It's been such a buzz since, I would say, mid 2000s, maybe even before, depending on where you were looking towards. Yeah, because like even mental health has been in the Broadway community, and so many Broadway shows have been talking about mental health since like what, the 70s? Probably earlier.
True. Very, very true.
And Guard's been around for what, like 50, 60 years now, and we haven't brought it up yet.
No.
No, and what else are we doing right now?
We're doing a lot. I'm just saying. I know there's a lot of people sitting at home, bored in the house, and but yeah, like we're talking about this. Like this is something that needs to happen as far as like bringing the awareness of it to, especially I think not just to the students, because a lot of times the students, like they know that they're going through something. They might not know what it is. They might not be able to put a name to it, but they know something's up. And so like so we're really going to be targeting like the instructors. We really need to be targeting them to understand that the instructors, the directors, and so on, those people who work directly with these students, to understand and recognize, you know, how to go about having that, I don't know if you want to call it a discussion or just an awareness.
I would say awareness.
Yeah.
There's so much that we could communicate with just silence.
True.
Like, even like on the band field during band camp, if it's really hot, I'll be like, because I think it's like a pirate. So like, are you like okay? From like across the field. And my students know, like, yes, no, they'll just shake their head, give a hand wave. So yeah, it's really just an awareness and just a general comfort with having even the signals that we were just saying, like even just with hand signals. I used to have a student who was going through a lot, and like the beginning of every practice, she would run up to me, give me the update, where she was today. Okay, cool. If anything more pops up, we'll tackle it then. But you feel good now? She would. Off you go.
Perfect. Now so basically should we go about, and we do have some instructors. I'm kind of trying to watch who's been coming into the chat. So if I've got some instructors, if you guys would like let me know how many of you guys are actually like instructors or techs or something in our chat right now, because I think we have some, but I think a lot of the people who are watching right now are students and performers themselves. How would you recommend the students and performers let their instructors know, or how do they get to that point where they're having that sort of relationship with their instructors so that they can express themselves that way?
I saw earlier someone said they use sign language, and that is a very good key, because that means that you have to teach everyone what the sign language is, so you're aware of what you're looking for and what people are trying to sign. And that's actually just part of it, just having the upfront conversation in the very beginning. Just saying, hi, we're here because we want to have fun. Sure, we're here to spin flags and do cool tricks with things, but we're also here really to have fun. And in order to have fun, we all need to be as honest as we can. Whether that's you with your teammates, you with the band director. Even if I don't have the best relationship with a Guard student, not ideal, but it happens. If you have a trusted someone to go to in this band world, in our like local band world, like per school, great.
Right.
I'm not going to stop it. As long as it keeps you here and keeps you trying, I'm not going to fight it.
That's awesome. And we do have a lot of instructors. That's a lot more instructors than I thought. Hi, instructors.
Woo!
I always like, as an adult, I'm like, adults don't watch my stuff. It's all just kids. But then I'm really always surprised to find out that we have a lot of instructors who watch too. So Kathy says, when we're having drama issues, we sit in a circle and go around the circle and say something positive about each member. That's awesome. We actually did something, we do something like that each year. We used to do it where we had little sticky notes, and you would like write something to a person on a sticky note and stick it on their back, and then you wouldn't know who it was from. Everybody would have their own like set of sticky notes. I have a student reach out to me stressing about the season since our marching season got canceled. That I think we're going to make that like its own topic, talking about the corona. Let's do that. So, but yeah, so I think making sure we're reaching out and making those relationships with these students and students with your instructors as well. Like make sure you have some sort of relationship, even if you don't necessarily get along with the instructor, your direct instructor, have someone you can talk to.
And something else we could do to make sure that this conversation is open is just being open about ourselves. Like when I walk into practice, I usually don't work at the school that I'm coaching at. So I walk into practice and I'm like, hey, everyone, I had a rough day, but this is my fun place. So if I come off a little aggressive or grr, no, it's not you. And let me know, and I will work on it. And that's the thing. If they actually do, I'm very open. I'm like, all right, cool. Here's what I'm going to do to try to make myself better. And I just talk through my own things. Very, very open. Because we're all here to learn, and we're all always learning.
I think reiterating that is important too. Like we are here to learn color guard. You know, we're not necessarily here to just blah about our week. There should be a place for that. There's a time and a place for it too. And I think making sure you have that like set up. So like at Spintronics, we have our doors open time. And so like doors open time is the time that anybody can show up. You can come whenever doors open and we'll be there, we'll hang out, whatever. But as soon as rehearsal time starts, that's rehearsal time. But doors open time is like an hour before rehearsal time. So you can sit around and eat so much Taco Bell and talk about your week and just complain about your problems and help each other and give advice, celebrate your fun stuff. You know, having a space within the team that you can do that is so, so important for everybody.
Yep. And it starts at the top. It just starts with telling everyone, I'm open to it. If you need it, let's go in whatever way you feel comfortable. That's the other thing. We don't want to call people out because everyone in the world has anxiety now and always has. It just is now noticed and cared about. So people like me, I don't care. I'll just air out my whole things to my entire team. Is that common? Definitely not. So it's willing to just take the moment to just walk to the side, to everyone else, keep stretching, go, 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 cool. And just remind people that we're here for what, like 2-3 hours. It's a Saturday rehearsal. We're here for like what, 6 more hours?
Right.
We can get through it and then just leave it at the door kind of deal. And just knowing that this is the place where we get to escape, do our own thing, have our own fun, make memories. That's like the top two things I tell students. Before every competition, I'm like, what are we here to do? And they're like, win. I'm like, no, we're here to make memories that we're going to be proud of in 10 years when most of you are probably not spinning and have fun now and in order to make those memories.
Absolutely. We have a really good question here. I think it kind of goes along with what we're talking about. How would you recommend telling an instructor or director that you feel too much pressure? And then the rest of it says without seeming rude about it.
Well, I am a big fan of direct. Directly and kind of discreetly, like just pull them aside, talk to someone directly and just say, I'm feeling blank because of blank. And even add the caveat if you want. I know that this is what we have to do, but this is what I'm feeling. Because as long as you acknowledge that you understand why, and even if you don't understand, you can always ask, I just want to make sure that it's because of blank and not blank. Open communication and trying to think if I got every part of the question.
They just don't want to seem rude when they're saying that they've got too much pressure on them.
Oh, well, that's the other thing too.
Yeah.
The instructors are there to be educators, teachers. So their priority should be you and your needs. Sure, they're there to teach a specific skill set, but like even the law's on your side. If something ever turns super volatile, you're the student. Students actually have almost all the power. And like even the power to drive how a season goes. Takes one attitude to like totally derail how the whole competition goes, the whole circuit. whole everything. So just know that the students really hold all the power. And instructors should, and I think do, know that coming in. And yeah.
Absolutely. And another thing, like that's actually something that I learned from one of my students, by example. Like there wasn't ever a point in my instructional career where someone sat me down and was like, hey, this is how you need to talk to your students when they're feeling pressured. I would have these students that were feeling pressure, and they would end up having breakdowns without talking to me about it. And I would just be like, what did I do wrong as an instructor? I don't understand. Like, no one ever talked to me about anything. And like, actually having instructors who came in, or having students who came in, understanding that helped me as an instructor to develop my ability to talk to them about their problems. So like, they'd come up to me and say, hey, Jackie, so like, and not during instruction time. This would be like on a break, in between, something like that, and say, hey, I'm feeling the pressure, you know, can you go easy on me? This and this happened this week. And just being able to have that relationship. And once you have that relationship with your instructor that you start, that really, like, that just paves the way. You can ask anybody on Spintronics, if Sam is like, hey, I need to sit, like, I don't ever think of Sam as being rude, just because we have that relationship already. But if a new person were to come in and just be like, oh, I want to sit down all the time, you know, I'm going to say, no, you need to practice. So you have to have that relationship and understand it. Maybe I don't know what she's going through, what this new person might be going through. So that's a really good example. And there was something somebody said back here about give the students a sense of community to help them feel like practice is a safe zone. That's honestly, I feel like that's what we're going for here.
Oh, another technique I like to use. So people have been saying like the circles. I do breath breaks. So if we're all like trying to get through basics and this toss is really hard, I'm like, okay, everyone, I see everyone's muscles tensing. That is definitely opposite of what we need to do. So we're all going to do our deep breaths. But it's not like the normal, like calm deep breaths. It's the in and then just the loudest groan you can do collectively. Just like, it's just like, just make it echo. Who cares? People look over, whatever. They see we're doing something together. It just looks like you're supposed to do it. But actually the really ugly like groan is really, really, it just releases all the tension, and honestly it just becomes a joke later on. So
it makes me think of that meme with the Grinch, where the Grinch is in yoga class and he's like, oh, and everyone's like, you okay? You going through some stuff? That's awesome. So what are some like adaptive and maladaptive coaching techniques? Let's kind of like segue into like some of the techniques that we can use to help these kids, basically.
All right. The first thing I would do that's like adaptive. So adaptive means good, maladaptive means bad. That's very counselor speak, and just in case people don't know, because I didn't know before, like I was in the field anyway. But so like an adaptive thing, very easy. Straight up from the beginning, ask pronouns. Just when you're introducing yourself, that's what I always do. I'm like, name how many years you've spun, like, or seasons you've spun, what you like to do, and pronouns. Boom. It already shows people that you're open-minded. And just like, what are your, like the 4 words tells a lot about your character. What else? I have the list right here. It is up to the instructors to set the tone of the entire season or practice. And something that I would say is micromanagement is not always as productive as people think.
True.
It stresses you out. It stresses the students out. And a lot of the times, if you're just tell the student, actually this all goes into the other point I had too, which is like, do not set expectations until you've met the students. That's something I love saying to people. When you're doing auditions or tryouts, that's when you're evaluating the students. I don't like to pick any show. I don't like to pick like any tricks in the show until I meet who's coming. Because you never know. You may have a kid that's been on guard for like 4 years and really, really is their strongest dancer, and then you have some new kid that can tumble their life away. And
right.
Well, you don't like stick to a solo, you just stick to like different features, and it's just always being adaptable. Adaptability? Yeah.
Adaptable is a good word for it.
But yeah, I just hate when people set expectations like, we all will do like triple 45s behind the back before the end of the season. It's like, okay, or we could just meet the people
Yeah.
and just say, hey.
What if you have a girl who shows up who doesn't even want to talk to anybody?
Exactly.
You know?
And also, another thing I like to say is another adaptive skill from a coach's viewpoint is when you teach something or when you're choreographing something, it does not have to be perfect. That's something I very heavily emphasize, like during band camp. I'm like, hey, we just learned all the guard work for the whole show in a week. Make it perfect by November, maybe. I always add maybe too. I'm like, you now have 2 months to learn this. And at the end of the first week, you know the first song probably, or whatever song you learned first, because you've been doing it all week.
Right.
And I'm like, cool, you learned that in like 4 days. Now you have 3 more songs to learn in 2 months.
Right. Easy peasy.
It's easy peasy. And it's just like breaking it down and not letting things build. Just like, cool, it's pressure, but it's like, but remember, it's a little bit that has the due date's forever away. And you're coming to practice anyway, so you're working on it.
I think there's something to be said too about because of how when you were younger and on guard, I was younger and on guard, like there wasn't this awareness of mental health like this there is now. And you know, there was no problem with just the instructor yelling at you and putting pressure on you. There have been a lot of times where I've had students, you know, before I was really understanding of this, where I've had students come up and say, hey, you know, like, this is too much pressure for me. Or like I was saying before about those students who are having breakdowns. And like, you know, my first thought was, well, you wouldn't have wanted to have my instructors because holy crap, if you had said something like that to them, they would have made you run laps or do push-ups or whatever, you know, and just realizing that we can't do the same things. We can't teach the same way that people taught before. We can't run things the same way that they were done when we were before. We have to adapt, and we have to, like what you're saying about these adaptive coaching techniques, like adjusting this and adjusting the way you look at things. So
meeting people where they are.
Yes.
That's really it. Just meet people where their skill ups are. It's
not a life or death situation.
No. But it could save someone from a life or death situation.
Also true.
Yeah. Another thing I also like to tell people is when you're choreographing and creating the show, having student input takes less work off you. I feel like there's more buy-in, so students are trying harder. They also learn it better if they come up with it themselves. So it's just like during the creative process, it's like, cool, you want to try and do this trick there? If it makes sense, sure, why not? And if you're trying it and it's not perfect, great, you have 2 months to make it perfect. It's all so cohesive.
I think there's so much balance there. I've seen this one go both ways. So as far as like I've seen some instructors who are absolutely like, no, students will not have any input in the show whatsoever. The end. And I've also seen instructors who are like, sure, just do whatever you want. Yeah, it's your show, have it. And you really have to understand, like the kids are looking up to you to give them stuff, but also letting them have some input too. Like there has to be a balance of both things.
My method is I like to come with it done in my head and then seeing what's working, meeting them where they are. Again, it's that phrase, it'll come up every single time, but yeah. Just even having the plan set out can change the entire practice. And just your students knowing that you're not floundering means the world.
Right. They're looking up to you as an adult. They're like, oh, you're a stable adult in our lives. You know, for especially some of the kids that I work with, I know that like I'm the stable adult in their life. You know, whatever's going on at home isn't necessarily a great situation. So like I have to look like a stable adult and act like a stable adult, even if I don't feel like one.
Yep. And I learned that during my first season because I was only 6 months older than some of my students. And that was a whole like, okay. All right.
I understand that. Oh my gosh. I started teaching right out of high school and the students thought I was 22. I don't know how they got that idea, but apparently I looked like I was 22. I was definitely 17 because I graduated like a year early or whatever. And like compared to people around here, and it just, it's tough. I had to pull it together and have my life look like I had my life together. Basically, fake it till you make it. You know, If you're a young instructor out there struggling, we hear you. You can do it. Fake it till you make it.
Yep. I've also had the opposite happen to me too, oddly enough. I was coaching and it was like my 21st birthday that week, and we were having a Saturday practice on my 21st birthday. And the students came up to me and they're like, "You're not in 10th grade?" And I was like, "How would I be your coach if I was in 10th grade?"
That's awesome, honestly, though.
But it was so confusing. I was like, half of you know people I go to the college down the street with. How did half of you think I was in 10th grade?
That's pretty good. Okay, so we've got a couple of questions. We've got one here, and I've got a couple in the question box here. So, how do you suggest opening a conversation when a student seems to be crying for attention? I.e., I have a guard girl who constantly. I can't actually read your whole question. Mrs.
I have a guard girl
17.
who constantly talks about being depressed and hated by her family.
There we go. There you go. I don't know how you were able to see that because I can only see part of it. But
Oh, it's on full in my screen. But
Oh,
so
cool.
how I would handle it is, so they are at a school. There are counselors at a school. The band director works at the school. Theoretically, I actually assume. That's really assumptive. I don't know how the whole country works. But they are most likely at a school. And if not at a school, you always resources. There's a ton of resources out in the world. There's like the 1-800 numbers. I actually learned, so if anyone is having like a social services type problem, the same way there's 411, the call for information, 211 is for like social service stuff.
Oh, really?
211.org or .gov. If you just Google it, yeah, it's like 911, 411, but 211.
Okay.
For social services stuff. And I'm not exactly sure. Luckily, I've never had to use it, but I know it exists now.
Well, I'm glad to know it exists because I have had to use social services numbers a lot, and it's like a 1-800 number, and I'm just like, what is it again? I need to put this on speed dial.
Yep.
But yeah, okay, so 211 if you need to make a social services hotline sort of call.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sort of. And it like links you to your local area, because I think you type in your zip code at some point. But for how to address them, specifically, because you said your student was always talking about their family and home life, like I said, connect them with their nearest counselor, their nearest mental health professional. Because although it's not necessarily during school time, it's affecting school, a school activity. So it's still under their jurisdiction.
Right.
The same way that a party raging on a Saturday night and comes in the Monday and everyone's talking about it, great, now it's a school's problem because it's affecting school. If you're an independent guard that doesn't really have the school, I would go the like 211 route, maybe talk to the parent directly. But if you're at a school, you literally have a team of mental health people within the area at least. And most educators across the country are mandated reporters now too. So there's some type of training.
All U.S. certified teachers, no matter what state they're in, are mandated reporters.
So if it's actually that bad, they know where to go to get help. If it's just a student being dramatic, let them have an outlet with a professional.
Absolutely. So here's another one. This is kind of the opposite here. Jay Berrigan Jr. says, as an instructor, how would you handle a student who doesn't open up? They are there to do the choreography and they resist bonding time. We've had a few of these at Spintronics myself too. So what would you say? Because I don't know that we've handled it the right way.
I've actually had students like that too. And honestly, like, I don't really fight it. You check in with them, everything good? You having fun? Like, if they're coming back season after season and just really not into the group stuff, let it be.
Yeah. Because
students are getting what they want out of the activity. It's up to you to check in to see if they're getting all they want. But if they're happy, go lucky daisy just to be just to be part of the team, chill, lay back, let them. Some people have such a good support system outside of guard that they don't feel like the necessity to be a part of the big group. And they're there truly just to have the fun spinning.
Right.
And developing the skills. So if it's not presenting anything negative in practice or outside of practice, I would just let it be. Always offer. Always make sure that they are offered an inclusion. But if they just want to sit on the side and handle their own makeup, listen to music, that could be like their own sensory issue happening. It's overstimulating to be around a bunch of people. So let them, and it's all really about a part of adaptive goals is empowering students to take responsibility for their lives. So it's their, if they don't want to do it, don't force it. It's them making a decision about themselves, hopefully for the right reasons.
Absolutely. Okay, I think I've got all the questions covered for now. Guys, if you have questions, keep them coming in the Q&A box as we're continuing to talking. Okay, so what about, yeah, so that's actually a really good segue for the next thing, because we are here to teach them about life, you know, so increasing their life skill awarenesses. So like where with this whole situation is having them understand like how they can socialize with each other, I feel like in a positive way without infringing on each other and still getting what they want out of it. I didn't rehearse any of this, just so you know. This is a pure conversation right here.
But yeah, it's really just, it's all about, like, part of the life skills that we're teaching is empowering autonomy. Autonomy means making decisions for yourself, for those who don't know. It's a big word. That's why I don't use it that much, but that's what it is in psych world. But no, it's just, as long as they know, and you tell them, you can be very, very honest with teenagers. That's why I love working with guards, because their minds are not necessarily fully developed, but they understand most things. So you can open honesty with teenagers. Just, hey, you're here to get whatever you need. And if the team's doing well and you're doing fine, great. And that's your job, and placing responsibility on them. And also, because it's a safe space and we've already established it's a safe space, they get to test their limits. They know, and usually people that join guard kind of, I feel like, are 10th or 11th graders mostly. So they have usually like a couple years to develop that skill. And that's part of the fun of coaching. You see like the development throughout the years, not just the season.
Right. Oh yeah. I wish that we had like we do have that a little bit at Spintronics, because we have some kids who come in when they're in high school and they go on and stay with us through college and what have you. But I don't have like that sort of thing where we see them in middle school and then like them growing up into high school and so on. And I think those years are so formative and so important, especially to their mental health, because if they don't have a support group, especially that transition from middle school to high school, if they don't have that support group, that is so just forlorn to them. Personally, I know I moved schools between my 8th grade to 9th grade year. And so I knew no one. And like, that was one of those things where it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna have to figure out how to survive without friends now. And then you have the color guard, and it's like, oh, I like doing color guard, but I've already had to figure out how to survive without friends. So now what do I do? You know what I mean? So
yeah,
that's a totally different mindset to have.
And it's not only like autonomy that we're building with students, it's things like networking skills. It's interacting socially, but it's also networking. Like, we as coaches, I don't know if anyone else has ever been asked, but I've been asked to do college accepted like request letters or application letters. Big honor, love doing it. I do it as a counselor anyway, half the time. So I'm like, yeah, I could do it. 2 minutes later, here you go. Good luck. But it's also networking, and it's just, there's so many people involved in the band a lot of the times. Not only the guard person, it's like the band director. Sometimes there's assistant directors, there's a bunch of parent volunteers, and it's teaching them knowing who to go to for what, for this part of the uniform, for help with this hair, with help with the makeup, help carry my stuff. Where is the stuff in the truck?
Where do I put all of this stuff?
Yeah. Oh, my flag needs to be retaped. Where do I get the tape? Who knows where to get the tape? And it teaches those skills. It teaches collaboration, because it takes more than one kid to create a show.
Oh gosh, those group work skills are honestly invaluable. They really are. I don't feel like I have the opportunity to teach those in biology class nearly as much as I do in color guard.
I actually had that discussion with a coworker of mine like this morning. That we both feel that coaching is where we get to teach so much life skills and not just academic content. And go on.
We have, I was just going to say, I have a good question about this right here. How do you talk to a coworker about not taking their stress and frustrations out on the students and in front of them? Okay, so this is actually really good. How do you discuss this with like another instructor so that they understand? I think this is sort of that presenting a united front to the students sort of thing, if you have more than one instructor.
Mm-hmm. So the way I do it is, like I said, I'm a big fan of direct confrontation. So it's not for everyone. But the words you're saying and like the methodology can be done by anyone. So you just ask them, what's up? I've noticed you're acting different. You don't have to bring the students at all into it. You could just check in with them as a person. And then be like, okay, because I've noticed that blank. And you could even just make up something as long as their frustration is addressed. Like, that's the point. That's one of those white lies that we can tell in order for the greater good. But yeah, just checking in with them overall in life. Just like, hey, is it guard stressing you out and teaching? Or is it something outside of guard and teaching? Same thing we actually tell the kids too.
I think too, it's part of it is like, you need to, when you have a staff, like a full-on staff, you think about it, think about the way that you like bond your color guard team so they can work together. Like your staff needs to be bonded as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like they need to be able to get along and work together. They don't necessarily have to like each other, but like they have to get along and work together and understand like how to work together. And I think having that relationship is really important as well. Let's see,
and it's not.
Oh,
okay.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's not only like social skills we're teaching life skills, it's proper health, water breaks, stretch. What thing cannot be fixed by stretching?
Actually, meniscus tears and sprained knees. Don't stretch those.
Good to know.
Don't do that. That's actually something we've been discussing, the idea of moving all of our instructor certification programs to virtual. And a lot of people don't know that kind of thing. And they don't know about this sort of mental health stuff. They don't know about physical health things. You know, I know when I was in drum corps, drum corps of all places. Now, keep in mind, our drum corps did have a physical therapist on staff. So she could handle things. But our guard instructor, if you had any pains or any problems, and let's say the physical therapist wasn't around for you to talk to at that moment, her only response to anything was ice and ibuprofen. Like, oh, I did this thing. Ice and ibuprofen. I broke my shoulder. I'm not even kidding. Ice and ibuprofen. Like, okay, cool. So like they need to understand like basic first aid, basic, taking care of injuries, injury preventative tactics and things like that. So that's something else we're thinking about, I shouldn't say we're thinking about, that is going to go into our instructor program as we like develop it further and move it to the virtual environment versus being in person only.
And something like that, even right there, it's part of being open and honest as an instructor. I made a mistake. My bad, everyone. Is it going to affect me? Like, not after like we handled it and we just talked about it. I learned. Right. Great. And that's leading by example because everyone makes mistakes.
Exactly. Okay. So I've got another question here. It says, how do you deal with other people in band and guard blaming everything on you and the guard? Last year we had a big rookie guard and got second. Oh, it won't let me actually. It will
second at championships, okay. But this kid in drumline blamed it on us. Had no respect for us. Well, I don't know if you are the instructor or another student, but if you're a student, that is definitely something you bring up to an adult or person. If you are the guard instructor, that's something you talk to with your fellow staff, like behind the scenes, like, hey, I've noticed this is happening. If we need to be we need to be united front as a band. But yeah, just going up the hierarchy, it's there for a reason. It may be super aggravating at times, but like I said, we're there for students and to create this magnificent positive environment. So I'm sorry that happened, though.
Yeah, I think there's a culture in some places, like I know it's here, with our small towns, there's a culture in some places where instead of like taking on responsibility for yourself and your own actions, like we were just talking about, like, oh yeah, I learned something from that. Sorry, I made a mistake. But pushing the blame on someone else instead and saying, well, it was your fault that this happened. I think that culture needs to be gotten rid of. We need to push that aside and realize that it's really important to set that example and make sure that we are showing the students how to take responsibility for their actions. And obviously you want the guard students to be behaving in a respectable manner also. You can't go out and demand that the other programs or the other sections be respectful of you and then go, I don't know, graffiti the band room and spit in the drum heads and all that sort of stuff. Like, that's not...
That sounds like a story.
Not a good option. I made up one. Nothing happened here, as far as I know.
Mm-hmm.
So, last topic. Instilling the fun in color guard.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, should we even have to instill the fun? Like, oh, you're here for color guard. You should just be here and enjoy it. I shouldn't have to make it fun for you.
No, I think we totally have to instill the fun. Because like I said, anxiety is rampantly growing for many, many reasons. And the whole, like, this is so, like, super, super older people. Like, kids don't know how to be kids anymore. I mean, that may not be true exactly, but forgetting fun is something everyone does no matter how old you are. It's like there's a thing called Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and it's like a triangle, and there's like many sections, and like it's like safety, fulfillment, and like at the top is fun and entertainment. That's like the last thing you think about because you're so busy trying to make sure everything is like hunky-dory. Mm-hmm. So as instructors, as long as it could just be a simple thing as we're here to have fun. Like if some student is like having an attitude, we're here to have fun. Move on. Or like you don't have to say move on, but you just move on.
Right.
It's a nice direct way and polite. I think it's polite to say that. And there's so many little things you can do to make sure fun is still instilled. Like in the circuit where I've competed and taught in, there's a huge instructor culture that before, like in winter season or even fall, before you go out onto the floor, you are in focus mode and all you think about is just the show and all that. And I'm like, that is really intense.
Yeah.
And
it's a very WGI thing, I think, too, because I feel like our personal circuit is not like that, but there's a few guards that are very competitive who are like that. And then when we go to the WGR regional that happens in the area of our circuit, all of the guards are like that. And I'm just like, what is this culture here?
Yeah.
I don't understand it.
I fully disagree with that. I've been on guards where the instructors were like that. And I'm like, you're making me more stressed than I need to be. I believe in myself. And I don't mind saying thank you to the person complimenting my costume. Or telling someone, I love your costume. It's things like that. I'm like, why are we stopping that? That's complimenting and building a positive network. Instilling the fun. Also, when you're at competitions, sure, don't run off into the middle of nowhere and disappear, but go talk to people. Make friends at other local guards. Invite them over to come eat with you. Watch shows together. It's very boring when you're hanging out with the same group of people forever and ever and ever, because like if we're doing like a full traditional year, we do like auditions like in May, April for fall season, go through all summer together, go straight into winter, and then we're done like April 1st? And then that's only 1 month separate? And if you're hanging out with the same people, it's getting draining. You fully, I believe, just need to have friends and other guards that you'll see at competitions. It also just expands your network and that whole networking skill. And honestly, that's actually how I found my college roommate. He was in like another guard nearby.
That's cool. Oh my
and we just were both going to college. And we were like, hey, you want to be roommates? Great.
That's awesome. Desmo says, we tell our kids to say thank you. It's respectful. Yeah.
Yes.
I think you should say thank you. Another thing that I really love that I don't see happening everywhere is that like when you see a guard walking down the hall, like going to their warm up, like clap for them, tell them have a good show, you know, give them well wishes. And I've seen a lot of guards that just ignore those guards that are going like no, you need to give them that positive support so they feel supported, so they've got in their right mind for it.
Yeah, and that's exactly the part of the teams I was a part of, where it's like, it doesn't matter what they're saying, you need to focus on you. I'm like, but they're praising me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, but they are. They're praising you and they're lifting you up. So saying good skills is a good one. Yes, it's Nichelle says, we said good skills. We were never allowed to talk to other guards at comps. It depends. We say good skills. Yeah, like you should be able to. I mean, obviously all instructors are going to have the different mindset about why they want you to not talk to other guards or why they want you to. Or for us, like, we have periods of time where it's like, okay, you need to focus in at this point and don't be distracted by the people walking by. But if someone like calls you out and is like, hey, Danny, love your hair.
Thanks.
Yeah, exactly. Like, say thanks. Don't be rude.
It's faster to say thank you than ignore them.
This is true. Because, I mean,
also,
they might pester you.
Not even pester you. First of all, that's how you get a bad rep as a guard. Also, oh, did you say them? They didn't say thank you. They think they're better than us. And also, something else about that whole culture I'm not a fan of is just that it makes things so much more intense because you're focusing on it, and it's like your whole focus. And just by easing it up by even saying good luck, because when you have that intense focus and you drop in a show, there's so much guilt then, because that's all you were focused on. And it just builds anxiety, and no matter what, people are probably going to feel guilty. So why not make it fun and make the guilt not as intense?
Right.
I actually pissed off my instructor once because of that. So I dropped like a small, I had to do a triple, and it was like really fast. It was like in 2 counts. I had to throw it real fast and catch. Completely dropped it. It was a solo, like a mini moment, I should say. Dropped it. Afterwards, I'm like, we're folding the floor and I'm doing whatever. And he comes up, he's like, why did you drop it? I'm like, who cares? It's over. And he was like,
oh yeah, I can't imagine an instructor taking that very well.
This was a college guard, and we were not that competitive, I will say, that season. I see some of my teammates commenting, so they know.
Mrs. Lunt 7 says positivity radiates, and I, as a guard instructor, really try to let them be who they are within boundaries. Yeah, yes. Honestly, I feel like that's all you can ask for. That's all you can ask for. That's all you can set up to do, and that's honestly, it's fantastic.
Yeah, just make it fun. Instill the positivity.
We would have mental breakdowns if we dropped. Yeah, see, I think that's too intense. If you're having a mental breakdown over dropping a piece of equipment in the gym, like there's a phrase I love this phrase. It's flags in a gym. It's not life or death. It's not the end of the world. It's flags in a gym. And yes, you want to do well. You want to do better than your competitors. You want to do the best that you can possibly do. But you do not want to lose your own like mentality over it. You don't want to go home and like feel like you need to go home and cut your wrists because you dropped your equipment. Like, there has to be that ranking of what is important in your life.
That's actually another thing about the wrist cutting that you brought up, about helping sure instill the fun. So like I said earlier, I'm a school counselor, so I'm directly like in schools. And in order to avoid that culture, because we're all guilty saying I want to kill myself, I tell my students, like, look, you'll hear me say it, and I really, really shouldn't. Very honest about it. But when you say it, I am a licensed school professional in mental health. That means we are by law required to do a ton of paperwork. And sometimes we can pull out the stack of paperwork and it shows them what we have to do and why words matter. And so far, it has not backfired, because now instead of saying like, I want to kill myself, now they're like, well, I'm upset and frustrated and I can't say it because I'm protecting your license. And I'm like, that's fine. And it just becomes this whole joke. And so as they're frustrated, they're also laughing because they know they can't do something, and it's just not taking things too seriously. And they make memes about it now too. So, and I'm like, sure, whatever keeps you in a positive mindset, I don't care.
Absolutely. Jay Barrett I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. I'm trying to say it right. Jay Berrigan Jr. says, I try to befriend other instructors in our circuits. When we are in the same competitions together, my students are ready to help with floors. Yes. Love
Yes.
helping with floors and props. That's awesome.
It's also not only for that. If you need a flag or a rifle
or an entire set of sabers.
because I've had that happen. Actually, I was like at a competition, our rifle snapped. My instructor ran over to a guard he knew. Hey, you already went. Can we borrow a rifle? Yeah, here. Boom, done like that.
Nice. I also noticed the more stressed and intense you are, the more the kids are. I found that the students are harder on themselves than you could ever be on them. That is also very, very true.
Yep.
The students are going to be harder on themselves. And so if you're like beating them down as their instructor, that's like they're going to go home and beat themselves worse.
Mm-hmm. And just another big part of the collaboration, I see XX Desmond XX. So last year, I was working at a school where they never had a guard before. I found out 6 days before winter opened, or like winter, I should say. 6 days before winter season opened, we got approved to have a season. And I scrambled to put a show together. Luckily, I had music copyright already handled. And Des is an instructor her school's like, 20, 30 minutes away. She's like, we have all this extra stuff because we're a very established school that's had guard forever. Come and use whatever we're not using this year. And they even, they were shrinking their floor size. They were cutting, it was an absurdly large floor. It was, 70 by 80. So they cut off, a good, 32 by 16 strips off, and we just were like, we'll take the scraps, taped it together. Boom, we had a floor.
Nice.
We had 2 sets of flags, and we basically ran a season on dues alone that were less than $200.
Nice. That's honestly, when you lift up each other and you help each other and you create those positive relationships, it's only going to help you. And that culture of beating each other down to make each other better thank goodness, it is slowly going away. And honestly, it's up to you guys now. We've been teaching for a while and been trying to push this forward, but it's really up to this next generation of instructors as they come up to be understanding and to be building those relationships now, so that when you are in the place where you and I are sitting right now, you're going to be able to say, yes, I have those positive relationships and this is how they helped each other, And
it only just bleeds into the students because I've had, I think last year during that season, I had 3 guards that were willing to help with the floor. Our floor wasn't that big, so my students were able to handle it. But you know what we did need? People cheering in the audience.
Yep.
We had 3 full guards of no one my students knew because they'd never been to a winter competition before, cheering them, and it scared them, honestly. But whatever. They felt good.
We had a crazy moment like that this year, too. There was a guard that I guess they, interspersed themselves, and they were like, we're all going to cheer for this point because their instructor had done some choreography for us, and they planned this whole thing out. We went into this choreography. It was just real simple. All we did was, push the flag over like this. That's how it started, and the whole crowd lost their minds. And we were just like, we haven't even done anything yet. And they just were on their feet and screaming for the entire rest of the show. And we didn't know what to think. That was, honestly, I made a TikTok about it the next day because I was just like, this is just too funny. But yeah. Oh, man. Well, it's been awesome talking to you. We're getting really close on time. Is there anything else that you wanted to just throw out there into the community, into the world?
Talk to each other. If you have questions that you come up with after, you can message Spintronics, you can message me, and this conversation's not going away. It's just going to be ongoing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And even if it's not with us.
Your screen name is, what is it?
Lodestars Lagoon.
Okay. And I'll put that in the description too whenever we post this video for anybody who's watching it on the replay rather than watching it live. So cool. Well, thank you so much for coming and talking to me, Danny. You're awesome.
Thank you for having me. And I do love your lights too. I know everyone was talking about it while we were trying to figure this out.
Thank you. Yes, I love my it's called a Bliss bulb. It's my Bliss lights. I always endorse them. They don't give me any money for it, I promise. make really cool lights. So, oh, also, wait, endorsing things. Wait, look at my shirt. I have our virtual camp shirts. The staff virtual camp shirts came in.
Woo!
They're really cool. You can order them on our website, spintronicsguard.org. They are in the made to order section of our store. So, and you can get them in whatever colors you want. You can get like tank tops or long sleeve shirts or short sleeve shirts or whatever else you want. Like, we really appreciate it. And these go to help pay for all of the expenses for our virtual camp, which I know you're like, oh, what expenses were those? They were a lot. There were expenses, don't worry. And, but anyway, yeah, so help us out. And that's my last plug for today. So I have one more plug. Stream tomorrow. Oh, go ahead.
So if anyone has makeup necessity needs, I know this company. It's a small indie company. It's this just adorable couple. They've retired and now all they do is make makeup. It's super organic and natural, and it lasts for like 12 hours.
Ooh.
My sister is allergic to everything. Like, she's even allergic to aloe vera. She does not react to this makeup.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
It's called Surreal Makeup. I will definitely send the link.
Yeah, send me that link and I will put it in the description of the video too. So we have that.
And feel free to tell them I sent you, because it just helps them track where everything's coming from. Don't worry. I'm not sponsored. I just really like supporting them.
Maybe this is a thing that we should be going after and getting sponsorships for. So, I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? All right. Well, thank you so much again. Guys, thank you for coming and watching on the live. If you're watching on the replay, thank you so much. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. Make sure you follow us on Instagram. We are all about that growth. The more growth we have, the more awesome stuff like this we can bring to you. And yeah, like I said, no live stream tomorrow, but we will be back next week, Thursday, with the live again. So bye. And thank you again, Danny.
No problem. Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.